We have to get back into a society in the classroom and at home to where we reinforce that you're not entitled to anything. The world owes you nothing. As a matter of fact, you're here to give to the world. You're not here to receive.
Absolutely.
You are here to contribute. Your purpose is be the best you can be so that you can help more people. If that's the focus, you're going to build a culture that's saying, it's not about me. It's not about me.
Hello, today I'm here with Jaco Booyens. You know, I came to know Jaco through the movie 8 Days. He's an amazing filmmaker, and it is a courageous film about the reality of sex trafficking in the United States. And Jaco and I could talk forever about our work and his work in fighting sex trafficking here in the United States. But I just think there are so many other things that we need to discuss, and I would love to have a show about that sometime. But you are so passionate about so many different things, Jaco. I've been watching and keeping up with The Bottom Line, and that's his new podcast. So today I want to talk about some broader topics. Some of the things I want to talk to you about are, let's just list them here: free speech, work, competition, setting standards for ourselves, and just how all of that helps us help the next generation. I want to look at our children and how all these different things are affecting them. So welcome. It's so good to see you.
Nelda, thank you. You know, I've got nothing but love and appreciation and respect for you. And we've had a journey, a beautiful journey together. And we can talk about a lot of stuff. I've got memories upon memories of how you've impacted our lives. So thank you for having me on the show. It's an honor. Such an honor.
Such an honor. And I want you to know, I've really been enjoying The Bottom Line. I want you to know that it is playing in our workout space. So as this girl begins her rowing and all this kind of stuff, I'm listening to you, Jaco, and The Bottom Line.
Oh, wow.
And so it's really inspiring, and you're doing an amazing job. And so really a nice, new, fresh podcast out there. I really enjoy it. So thank you for your work and everything that you do. I just want to jump in. Jaco, I've been shocked probably over the last 5 years or so at how people are so easily offended at free speech. It is amazing to me that we cannot disagree civilly, and that we cannot listen to one another. What has happened in the United States?
Now that we've embraced a culture that is so politically correct, where we've literally given up freedom. Look, Benjamin Franklin said, those who are willing to give up liberty for freedom deserve neither, right? And so people say, what's the difference between liberty and freedom? I don't know that millennials today could tell you the difference between liberty and freedom. And that is in essence the problem. That murky water that the educational institution wants to create, right? To where we don't really understand what freedom, what is liberty truly? What was this country founded upon? Because those liberties that we defend today under the Constitution was endowed by God. This wasn't endowed by a constitution. It's defended by the Constitution, but it's endowed by God, right? And so this is freedom of speech, the right to disagree, to agree to disagree, the right to debate versus argue. No one wants an argument. We can have a debate and walk away like two warriors in the ring, you know, beating the living daylights out of each other and buying each other a beer afterwards, you know. This is what athletes do, right? And so we got to be able to do that in civil discourse.
You know, I remember studying what the word libertas meant at the time that all of our founding documents were written, and it really does mean the right to live as God has ordained for you to live, but it is within that realm, right? There's boundaries to that, right? The difference between what has come to mean now and what it was meant then, and it's been redefined. So how do we get a culture to understand that and see that and be at home again with that?
I really think we're looking at what you, and I'm not, this is not just to be, to be smart about it, but what you're doing here, this kind of information sharing, this kind of a media platform is really where I believe we need to go as a culture. We have to break the monopoly of mainstream media. That single funnel that regurgitates a single topic over and over. We have to bring back free thinking again. This is a free thought conversation we're having. I'm not prompted by you what to say. No, we are having real dialogue in freedom to think. And we need to encourage our young people to think for themselves again. Look, we're supposed to be sheep following our master, Jesus. We're not sheep supposed to be following a government. We're supposed to lead in society. And people are so blind today. It's literally, they follow blindly, particularly those who are lazy enough not to think. They want someone to think for them. And unfortunately, if you give someone the opportunity to control your life or your future, they will. They'll take it. They'll grab it with both hands. And that's what we're seeing. People are very afraid to speak. They feel things. So many times, you're going to see when you do this show, people come and say, Nelda, you said the stuff that was on my heart. You're saying the stuff I've been thinking about. And then I'll say, why haven't you said something? Wow, it's not politically correct, or my neighbors will frown upon me, or the teachers. This is the society we're in today. People are afraid to say what they know is right.
You are out with college students. How long have you been going out now? 3 years or so out with the college?
Yeah, 3.5 years, 3 years with Turning Point USA. And other than Charlie Kirk, I probably speak at second to Charlie, the most college campuses of anyone else in the nation, right? I visit a lot of college campuses, and I'm talking all of it, from Brown University, that's ultra liberal, all the way through Texas A&M, that's conservative, all of them, because I go there and we address sex trafficking because it's bipartisan and it gets us on the campus. So I can really tell you, and I spend time with these students. We go out to dinner. I mean, I spend a day on the campus. We table together when you kind of campaign. And I'll tell you, there's an interesting stat. 60% of college students today will fail the immigration exam. They will not qualify as an immigrant by answering, and I'm an immigrant, I'm a legal immigrant. You've got simple questions like, how many senators are there? Can't answer you. They can't even tell you how many state representatives they have. What are the branches of government? How are we set up? How does the judicial system work? So, and then you understand when you look at some of their statements, when they plead for socialism, or they plead for some of these things that they campaign for, I look at them the way I looked at women in the Elvis movement. Women, Nelda, fainted in the Elvis movement, but they'd never seen him. They just heard, oh, he's hot. Oh, he's amazing. And then they would yell and faint, and I go, you know nothing about the man, but you're all in. That's what we're seeing today with the college students. There's a very shallow. Now, they're very intellectual. They're smart. They're the highest educated generation of our lifetime. They're so smart, but it's shallow. It's wide, but there's no depth. They don't go deep and say, okay, what do I believe? And am I convicted? Conviction for me, Nelda, is what's lacking in our country. There's no conviction because they can't tell you why they fight for what they fight for. They fight. Look, they fight. They'll show up, they'll rally, they'll march. But the second you pause them and say, why? Other than the talking points that whatever they're fighting for, both sides of the aisle, right? Other than the talking points, if it comes to personal conviction and belief, they can't go there because they don't know. It's not rooted. Because it's not from them. They're jumping on a movement, and then they're just inheriting everything the movement stands for without first checking, am I connected to this? I mean, is this really who I am?
Right, right. So in where we are now in our culture, so here we are. What can we do about this? What can we do to educate, to inform, and to help people go deeper? I mean, how do we do that, Jaco?
What's been successful for me on college campuses is civil discourse, civil dialogue, but I encourage people to do self-analysis. For instance, a student will challenge me on gender, for instance. How many genders are there? Controversial topic on college campus. And I will post their questions back to them. Say, think about this. Think about you, your father. Does it make sense? What you're saying, does it make sense to you? Logically, can you defend it? No, I can't. And so I encourage self-analysis, for them to go saying, listen, are you personally connected to this? Is it all emotion? Because I can debate this with them saying the following. In any statement I make today or you make now, though, we got to ask ourselves, is it a right brain or a left brain statement? Is there any frontal lobe involved? This is the physiology. This is how God made us, whether people want to believe it or not. But if you look at, for the most part today, particularly in media, it's all right brain dominant. It's all emotion. It's 100% emotion, which means it's fly by night, right? It's in the moment. It's sporadic. You gotta redact your statements. You gotta retrace your steps. You gotta flip flop because there's no time for the cognitive, the left brain to come in, logic to come in, research, analytics to come in, and have a beautiful right brain, left brain, and then bring it to the frontal lobe where logic sits and say, does it make sense? So today, if we look at a lot of cultures, it doesn't make sense. No, because it's all driven by emotion. So we really need to engage this younger generation versus just ridicule them, engage them and say, look, please understand how your body works, how your brain works. You're emotional. Turn down the emotion. It's bringing left brain exercise. Why? Why do you think this? And if you can't go really deep, so the reason a 3-year-old asks why, you've got grandchildren,
Yes.
Why am I hungry, Dad? Because we haven't eaten. Why? You could just go on forever. We need to ask why more for ourselves and answer why. Any great actor can tell you, as a director, I ask my actors, why would the character do that? Why? And if the actor cannot answer, he didn't do his job. Right. Go build depth. Go build character and history. We lack depth in our arguments today because it's right brain.
And if we are using the internet as and I'm talking about social media and some of the media outlets that people follow, if we're using those and things are moving at such a rapid pace, I mean, a friend of mine and I were discussing today that it could be 2 months before you even heard that there was a war over somewhere before we had the internet. And before television and the things that we are so used to having these days. But it gives time for processing. We now have so many things. I mean, especially those who are constantly on their phones, constantly in front of, are checking stuff. They're constantly being bombarded with information. They're not processing any of it. There's really no way to do that other than, we know that the brain has to process right and left, walking, swinging, jumping, doing all these different things to help us process through what we're learning. Those kind of, physically, we need to do those things. But what about someone who's just rapidly learning all this stuff off the internet in their phone, and they're not moving, and they're not thinking? Like you said, they're just simply consuming information that may or may not be honest, truthful, forthright. I mean,
yeah. I'll say this to you, and man, you're asking the best questions ever. I'm loving this conversation. Nelda, human nature is you will always go back to your default setting. You will always go back to what you trained, always. This is why we need to create habits. This is why we have boundaries for children, why we take our kids to bed at 8:30 at night every night, because it sets a rhythm. Now, we're not trained up for culture, which means we react to culture. And if you react, you're late, which means you're going to be surprised. You're going to make mistakes. It's a simple question that I ask people. Who are you? What is your personality type? Now, do you know that people can't answer that question? They don't know who they are, really who they are, not how they feel. They can tell you how they feel. They can write books about how they feel. Who are you? Are you an extrovert? Are you an introvert? What makes you different from people in your community? How do you process uniquely, right? So I encourage people to take these personality tests like Enneagram, life languages, all these different things. Learn about yourself. Go discover yourself. They jump in relationships, sexual relationships, but they don't know who they are. They don't even know why they're having this argument. What they're going to learn is, listen, I'm actually an introvert, not me, but the person. I'm an introvert, and I need time to process. I shouldn't just react. I shouldn't take things at face value because I'm actually a challenger. I want to challenge things, but I'm not operating in who I am because I'm just responding to culture. So I encourage people to really actually first get to know yourself, because what you're going to find is you're going to learn how you process. And then if you build a foundation of this is who I am, you'll return to that default setting if you've trained that muscle. Now, when something's thrown at you 100 miles an hour and it doesn't feel right, you'll go, I need to halt, go proof and verify. And people will do that, but they don't know. They just react, right? It's almost like, the ball theory. As long as you bounce it, it'll bounce back. And so they just bounce ideas back and forth. But unfortunately, we're making policy this way.
Right.
We're shaping culture this way, right? This is why Jordan Peterson exploded onto the scene. Jordan exploded almost like he was an alien, because people go, who's this guy? He thinks so differently.
Yes.
Yeah, he's just thinking.
Yes.
He's thinking.
I've been to hear him, and I remember thinking that I don't know how long I was listening to him when he started with the point over here, and I don't know how long it took us to resolve back around to proving the point. And it was such an intellectual exercise that I was stunned and loved every moment of it, and wondered. It was really fascinating to watch a whole audience of people sit there and be engaged in that moment. Yeah. I think that's why right now sometimes you see podcasts that are, instead of being 20-minute ones, they're 2 hours, right? Because people really hunger for starting here and this conclusion that we need to come to. But we've become a society really that's giving the participation trophy, right? And so, I mean, doesn't that reflect in it though? I mean, that we're really teaching people. What are we teaching them through that? I mean, how does that play into all of this? Because it does, Jaco. Right? I mean, the whole.
Yeah, it is what we're trying. And someone you love, Brene Brown, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Look at Brene Brown. Jordan, these people who think. I married a woman that can think a hole through a wall. Okay, Philippa doesn't. By the time she talks to you, she's covered every base. It can take her 2 days to answer me sometimes, and I just had to learn to deal with it because she's not ready. But we have trained our culture. You're right. It comes down to what are we training? We've trained them that, you should receive a reward for showing up. No, if you've made a commitment to a team, showing up is part of the job. You don't get rewarded for showing up. You get rewarded for winning. This first, second, third place. You don't get rewarded for showing up. People shouldn't thank you for just doing what you committed to do. Just do it. But we've trained a culture. I think, look, this is my opinion. The baby boomers had to work so hard. Baby boomers had 2-3 jobs in high school. Right. They were working their tails off. And I believe somewhere subconsciously that baby boomers made a decision, and I've interviewed a lot of them, and said, my children are not going to do what I had to do. They're not going to have to do that. They're not going to have to work a job. But then the pendulum swung all the way into the other direction. And now we're sitting with 2 generations, the tail end of my generation, X, and then definitely Z for sure. Gen Z, I think, is going to turn it around, the young ones, but the millennials, there's an entitlement mentality that was trained into them, like racism is trained. You train these things. Kids don't do this on their own. You've got to train them to be entitled, to train them to feel like the world owes them something.
But in the process, if I can, of thinking through and learning to think logically, if you are rewarded simply on the basis of sitting and being, and then it stifles our ability to think through things. Because why would we have to? We just got everything we wanted without having to make an effort. I guess I see the two connected. I see it as one and the same in so many ways, And so how do we teach our kids, I guess, Jaco, is that not only to think, not only to read, not only to reason, but also to compete. I mean, whether it be athletically or whether it be intellectually for a position, how do we teach that? I mean, what can we do to rectify that?
it's so important, because when you compete, you better yourself, right? Because competing is not just being against somebody, it's really against yourself. It's that desire to grow needs to come back, which if I really, I was a pro athlete for a long time. And if I really want to get better, then I need someone to point out for me what's wrong. And if I'm willing for someone to point out what's wrong, it means I'm going to grow a little thick skin. I'm not going to take everything personally. I understand it is for my betterment. So I don't crumble at the first sign of critique, right? And so we do need to train them to compete. I think, look, you can't get away from the education system, because the teachers spend more time with the kids than the parents. It's not now where we are today, but in a regular school cycle, the time the child spends with the teacher is more impactful than with the parent at times. And so we have to get back into a society in the classroom and at home to where we reinforce that you're not entitled to anything. The world owes you nothing. As a matter of fact, you're here to give to the world. You're not here to receive.
Absolutely.
You are here to contribute. Your purpose is be the best you can be so that you can help more people. If that's the focus, you're going to build a culture that's saying, it's not about me. It's not about me. I have got these skills that I don't know how to use, and I've got to learn how to use them. I got to do better. I got to help more people. The second you take the attention off yourself, even in a marriage, I love it when years ago I had some complaints. Lord, Philippa, if she would only do this, this, and this, and then God says, no, what are you doing? What are you doing? What's your role in that matter? And it stings for a minute. You go, ooh, ouch, but it's true. But it's true. Yeah, that's right. What am I doing versus what am I getting, right? And so I think if we start there, but it has to be reinforced. If the parent does it, but at the school they teach something opposite, it makes it difficult. So, but in the home, fathers re-engaging.
Oh, yeah.
Come on.
Yes.
Fathers, re-engage.
Yes.
Good, hard work. Hard work, Nelda. I told my kids 2 days ago, we were out in the park and they had some toys. And I said, you're not taking any toys to the park. None. Dad, we want to take, not even a ball, nothing. I said, guys, I played with mud and sticks.
Yes.
Okay? I had to be creative. And that taught me about trees. It taught me about the environment. Now, yes, I was raised in Africa. It's a little different, okay? But still, it put me back in touch with reality.
Yes.
Right? And we just need to get back in touch with nature, reality. Get in touch with the things man cannot make.
Yes.
And man cannot break, right? When somebody lives in New York, I always tell them, everything you see, man-made. It's hard to see God in New York City. You got to work hard, right? But let's go to Colorado. Let's go show you Yosemite. The redwood forest. Let's go to the ocean. Tell me, can man do that?
Yes.
No. Just brings perspective back to, okay, wait a second. There are so much that we don't understand, that we don't control. So let's get back in line. It's not about us. It's about how we contribute.
It's interesting because I'm working with a filmmaker now on a film that talks about the difference between screens versus what we learn when we're outside, what we learn in nature. And it is a big part of it. I have one of my two youngest who absolutely adores rock climbing and absolutely enjoys challenging her body. And she is amazing to watch because it's something that she's not in competition with other people. She is in competition with herself. And it's fascinating to watch her because she does strive so hard to strengthen her body because she loves to be able to climb that rock face and she loves to be able to do that thing. And I know that as a mama, I'm going to have to let go of this mama's protective heart and let her get out there and do that thing, right? And because she is learning. She's learning something about herself that's so important through that process. And no one's given her anything. She has to work her body to do it physically.
It's so important because it translates to everything else we do now. Our relationship with God. Versus, God, what are you doing for me? Husband. And when we're married one day, What's my husband going to do for me? What am I going to receive? If your mindset is somebody's going to do it for me, or I'm owed something, it radically shifts a culture. It's a 180-degree opposite direction, right? You lose servanthood. You lose gratitude. You lose gratitude because when someone then does something for you, or when you do something for someone else, you can't outgive God. And so when you serve, or when you really invest in yourself, like your granddaughter's doing, she's working really hard to climb. It's so rewarding when she reaches that next rung, that next level, that next grip. No one can take that from her.
Yes.
No human being on this planet can say, well, I gave you that. Because I gave it to you, I can take it from you. She'll say, no, you didn't. No, I worked my tail off to get here. So there's self-respect all of a sudden, right? And if you respect yourself, you're going to demand respect from others, and you're going to respect them. It's a ripple effect because it's the way we were supposed to live.
And so so that helps us, I guess, through our relationships. I'm listening to you talk about how, I remember listening to you the other day talk about the fact that if you see trash on the ground, you pick it up.
Yeah. And I did it yesterday. Yep.
And just that we don't wait for, you said that in our culture, I think you said that people are like, well, where's the custodian?
Somebody will do it. Somebody will do it. Well, why? Because I tell you what it does to me. Yesterday when I did it, it wasn't convenient. It's not. We're in the middle of a COVID crisis. Who touched that paper? You got to be smart, of course, right? And I walked past it. I'll be honest with you. Yesterday I walked past. It was like a popsicle wrapper, right? But it's obviously laying in a place where it's polluting, and it's not. Maybe the wind blew it out of a trash can. I'm not going to say someone threw it down, but there it was, and I'm seeing it. And I walked past it. Now I've taught my kids to pick this up. 2 steps past it, I told myself, hey, what are you telling your kids? Turned around, found a way to pick it up safely, picked it up, and got it in the trash. And my daughter immediately, Dad, what are you doing? I said, Arlen, when we see trash, we pick it up. And they've asked the question, but we see cleaners. That's great. It builds character in me. Mm-hmm. It builds a servant heart in me. It's not about who's not doing their job or me doing someone else's job. I'm just seeing a need, meet the need.
Yes.
Right? Meet the need. If we do that, now all of a sudden we'll have men open doors for women and helping old ladies across the street and doing random acts of kindness without needing recognition, or whatever. Yeah, I believe in it. I mean, it works.
I cut my mother's hair this week. And here we are, right? And she was like, what do you want to do? I said, let's cut your hair. I said, I want you to shampoo it tomorrow. Let's do it. We'll style it. We'll fix it, And it is absolutely, for me, it was such an amazing servant moment because my mother is such a servant. That is her. She never stops moving. She's 85 and she never stops moving. And she is always doing something for other people and very engaged. And it's been different for her to be with us and everything. But the beauty is that we had such a great moment of me cutting her hair. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to do the best I can here, right? But it is doing for others. And it does, man, it helps us so much to do things for other people and to be responsible and just learn that.
It touches you. Sorry for the interruption, because I'll tell you this, Nelda. People are looking for purpose. They have a job, but the minute you get somebody and you help them to actually impact a situation, or they walk away changed, they can't help it, and that is a very, very addictive drug. Once you feel that feeling of, man, I made a difference. Yes, and you can. You can. You don't need millions and millions of dollars to make a difference. Everybody has an abundance of something. I'm driving past a homeless guy the other day, and I'm just praying for him. He's on a bicycle. He's pushing a bicycle. The bike doesn't even work. He's just using the bicycle as basically a transportation for his goods. And he's got 2 blankets. And I'm watching him take one blanket off and hand it to another guy. Here's a homeless guy. Here's a homeless guy going, you know what? I got 2 of this and I need 1. You can have 1. There's not a person on the planet that can't give. We can all give. help, serve, and there's always someone in a tougher spot than us. And there's always someone that will understand the spot we're in. See, the enemy loves for us to believe no one is in a more difficult situation. No one will understand. And if I talk to anybody, they'll ridicule me. No one will. This is why we see suicide rate through the roof, why we see porn abuse where it is, because they don't want to ask for help. Because, well, I'm going to be shamed and condemned, nor do they know the person they're about to go to has dealt with this before and someone helped them. And so it takes bravery at times to reach out and say, hey, I need help, or can I help? Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's even brave to say, can I help you? Because you think the person you want to offer help to historically hasn't been open to receive help, right? And so it takes some bravery.
But that's where I know you have your ministry organization called Share Together, and I know that you have done a great amount of work, I think nationally and internationally with that organization. Would you, when you get ready, let's look at your film industry and the work that you've done there that was just so amazing. But when you hire people, let's talk about hiring.
Yeah.
And what we've talked about thus far about thinking and about character, and what about how is that impacting our work ethic in the U.S.? About how you hire people, who you look at when you're hiring, what you are looking for, and what you're seeing in our culture and our young adults? Because I know you're with the college students. So what are you seeing as far as our work ethic? Because I'm curious about how we can help our country in this.
Yeah, the work ethic has eroded, Nelda. It's the attention span has eroded, right? Because everything is 5 seconds. I wrote an op-ed for a newspaper yesterday, and they go, Jaco, it's got to be a 3-minute read. It's got to be a 3-minute read.
Wow.
And I said, okay, what do you think my article is? It's a 7-minute read, Jaco. And I'm going, wow. Okay, so we made it a 3-minute read. But the deal is the attention to detail, the attention span. Again, it's a trained muscle. You can train it. But the work ethic is very, very low. Now, I don't want to, use absolutes, and this is not everybody, but a large portion of society, the work ethic has eroded. The pride in wanting to complete a task to the best of your ability, not because it's your job, because it represents you. Think about that for 1 second. We need to get back to a place where people take pride in not their reputation for the sake of a reputation, but pride in the fact that if I call Nelda, it's going to be golden. If Nelda touches it, and I'm saying this because I know this to be true, it's golden. You don't have to think, so hire that guy. And what you're going to see in our country, and I'm talking about Fortune 500 CEOs that I'm speaking to, higher ups at Walmart, at some big companies, resumes are getting less and less important. The school you're going to is almost becoming a millstone around your neck, because if you say, look, I'm from Yale, Harvard, Brown, Princeton, it almost comes with, oh, there's a whole bag of tricks we're going to have to deal with that we can't. How do you think? So now when we're interviewing to hire, it's critical thinking, problem solving. I do not read a single, and I promise you, I do not read a single resume. If I cannot sit in front of a person and get out of them what I know their job is, then I shouldn't be hiring, right? I need to be able to mine talent and know and find it. Shouldn't be represented on a piece of paper, because really that doesn't tell me, anything. It gives me history, but it doesn't tell me, what's the motive, what's their heart, what's the level of excellence they're aspiring to work to. Got to be sitting in an interview, posting critical questions, problem solving, saying, how would we solve problems? How are we going to solve problems for other people? Steve Jobs, they fired Steve Jobs from Apple. And they said, this guy can't program, didn't write a single program in his life, ever. He's not a programmer, couldn't program, right? Do we need Steve? They sit around the board, no, fire Steve. They fire Steve, Apple tanks, they go, bring him back. Why was Steve brought back? Critical thinking to solve problems for society. Jobs said this, we're not a computer company. We're not a music company, the iPod. We just solved the problem. People want to be on the go listening to music, so we solved the problem. People want to be mobile with it, so we solved the problem with the laptop. And so we need to become problem solvers, because if you solve a problem, you're relevant. You're relevant to society. This is why plumbers will always work.
Yes,
They'll always
absolutely,
work.
absolutely. You know, our tradesmen are so important. My question too is, in this society that we've already talked about how quickly things are brought to us, you know, raising children to be good workers and have the work ethic and to just have a different mindset than what we're seeing. How do we do that as parents? How do we do that as mentors?
It's hard work. It's for all the parents out there. It's inconvenient. It's not convenient. It's not with a screen. It's eyeballs to eyeballs. It's discipline. Oh, can we go there? Just this little thing called consequence.
Yes.
Again, consequence. Yes, Jaco, but I want to be my child's friend. No, you're not called to be their friend. You're the parent. If they don't, at some point, don't like you, you're not doing your job.
Right.
If they don't disapprove of what you're doing, you're not doing your job. And yes, I was raised with incredible, severe corporal punishment in a culture where it was, you know, and I'm not promoting that, but consequence there has to be cause and effect. Otherwise, you find what we're finding in New York City, people pleading out saying, we don't need the police department to monitor the subway. What? You'll have anarchy. Come on. Because they don't understand consequence is healthy, boundaries is healthy. So parents, do the tough job, the hard, and don't just pass it over to the grandparents.
You know, you just said something. You just said something that just, okay. Boundaries, consequences are important. In our culture, they don't want, I mean, that is really a cultural norm right now. Not wanting to deal with consequences, not wanting to learn, even all the emotions that come out of that, all the things that grow us, that teach us. And I thought about it last night. One of my youngest had a stuffed animal that the puppy chewed up. Okay, destroyed. Yeah. And it's a consequence, right? And it's a consequence because you left it out for the puppy to get. I mean, we've all been discussing that the puppy eats shoes and things. And so we all have to be responsible and put our things away. And so what is it about our society right now that just does not want people to go through the consequences that are normal for your actions, things that happen because of your actions?
Nelda, look, every single human being has a sign on their forehead. You do, I do, all of us, that says, make me feel important. Now, who we grant that right to is vital. Because if you grant the right to anybody to have the influence to make you feel important or not, you're now going to be subject to people's opinion. And this is what we're seeing on social media. If somebody doesn't get a like within 10 seconds, they're sitting there, they're tweeting something and they're waiting. They're waiting, oh, the gratification, people love me. And we've attached love to an emotion. Love has become a feeling in our country. So now, if you like me and love me, you'll make me feel important. If you don't, then you must not love me. So now, if you disagree with what I think, you don't love me. Because it's not making me feel good. This is a very, very big problem that we have on college campuses. We've got students challenging me at times, say, Jaco, you need to love people. I love people with all my heart. This is why I'm bringing correction.
Correct.
Love disciplines.
Absolutely. It does. Love is a discipline. I think that loving someone is a discipline. It is not an emotion to me. It is what I do, what I say, how I as if you're my child, it's how I correct you. Even if you're my spouse, I may have to sit down and say, hey, we have some correction here we need to do. Yeah, right? We've got to discuss it. And it's a discipline.
Philippa has often looked at me and go, I don't like you today. Does not mean I love you, because love is what? Love is sacrificial. Love hurts.
Yes.
It should hurt. Love is a choice. I'll go as far as saying this. If it's real love, it's when you extend it to something that's unlovable.
Absolutely true.
Mm-hmm. Right?
Mm-hmm. And in days I'm unlovable, I am so glad that I have people who love me despite my faults. God. Yeah, because they're real. But I still have to suffer the consequences of of the things, the bad choices of the things I might say, the times I've lost my, my ability with my tongue, that I have to be able to go to someone and say, I am so sorry. I need your forgiveness for that. That was my bad, my moment. And, I just wonder how we change, again, that mindset. I mean, I know you've spoken about mindset, and it just, there's just so much, that I feel like our culture has just lost. And I hope you're so right. I see this generation that you're working with, Jaco, the young adults that you talk to now, and they do appear to be in a different mindset. They do appear to be, many of them, who are being willing to be loved that way, who are willing to be challenged and understand that you're challenging them is the way you're showing your love to them.
You can stem a tide. You can stem a tide, and we are. But we have to, these critical questions you're asking today, Nelda, are not being asked in school. Imagine if this is a class, and the class is called critical thinking at every single high school, and these questions are just being posted. No arguments, no disagreement, no disruption, no civil unrest. It's just critical thinking for yourself. You can't talk to someone else. This is for yourself. What do you believe? Do you know yourself? What is love? What makes you feel important? Have you granted the right to too many people to affect your life? Have you opened yourself up to the world, to social media, to affect your mood? Can people affect your mood? Who have you let into your inner circle, right? And then again, I believe all these things we got to hyper localize them, meaning in the home. It has to start in the home. This is hard work, folks. Even now when we have time, we got to do the tough stuff. Guys, we're going to have new rules in our house. Excuse me. Yes, we're going to eat at the dinner table. At least one meal a day. We're going to sit down together, phones in a closet, and we're going to look at each other and make conversation. Dad, nobody does that. Exactly. Right. That's why we are where we are. It's simple things like that. And you'd be amazed. The human being is the most amazing organism on the planet. We can change culture. We can get rid of addiction. We can change habits. We are bought for. Jesus paid for us. We can be saved by faith. We can be saved from ourselves, from addiction or habit. We can. But it's hard work. And it has to start in the home, because as long as we think, well, the school will do it, the government will do it, oh, they're going to train your kids, but it's not going to look the way it's supposed to look.
Yes.
Right? It's going to be all convenience, all self-serving, all in the moment, right? So we got to do it at home.
We do. And I think it does take that moment, because we have become a society that wants the likes. We do want the attaboys immediately from somebody that we don't even know who they are, maybe. Most of the time we don't know who the person is, but we want that, and that gratifies us very quickly. And so we don't want to do the work to I'm having to rehab physically. Okay.
Yeah.
I had a bad leg injury a few years ago, and it took 2 years before it didn't hurt the next day like crazy, because I did stairs or because I did, all these different things. And so I am rehabbing yet again. I've had several different physical challenges in my life with emergency surgeries. I've almost died before. I've had, all these different things. And so I feel like it's like, I remember, Jaco, not too long ago thinking, having an argument with God, having an argument with Nelda, having an argument with myself, that I didn't want to go out there and start the work. Didn't want to redo the work again. I didn't want to rehab. I didn't want to do it again. And now I am. And I can tell you, it's hard. It is hard at night when I go to bed and I'm hurting. It is hard. But I have to. I have 2 young girls to raise. They are my daughters now. They are officially mine.
Yes.
I have a lot of work to do. I have things to do. I believe that I have the most amazing things to do, and I'm not through yet. So I'm not going to sit down.
Look, you're a mother, And those young little people are only getting more busy and they want to move. And also, again, they see everything. Nelda, kids today, they don't miss a lick. They see everything. And we are training them when we're not intending to train them, right? When you're just doing stairs and that little girl is standing there watching you, you don't even know that you're teaching her that although it hurts, you continue go.
You know, I always tell them that our role model at our house is Captain Marvel. You know why? She gets back up. She gets back up. And I always tell the girls, you know, something happens and I'll say, she gets back up. We get back up.
Yep.
We're going to get back
Absolutely.
up. You know?
And if I want to change it, then change it. Don't wait for someone to change it. You know, my two girls, I've got two daughters and a son. They're racing the other day, and one wins and one loses. Of course, there's a 5-year-old and a 3-year-old, right? So the 5-year-old's faster than the 3-year-old, and the 3-year-old goes, but I want to win. I said, then run faster. And they just looked at me and I said, losing is important. You have to lose in life. You learn way more in life when you lose than when you win, right? And rehabbing, it's like losing. It's like, dang, is it making any difference? It hurts. It hurts more when I rehab than when I don't.
Yes.
But the only way I get to be normal again is if I go through the valley.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Absolutely.
You know, when you think about the body, it's like this, right? The weak muscles going to have all more aches. You're going to have more pains. You're going to have the spine hurting, all these different things. And that, you know, I can tell you from my experience, I know it's true. You know, I happen to be aging. I don't know how that happens, but anyway, I am aging. So, you know, and so I have to take care of Nelda. So how do you teach your children that internal motivation, you know, versus having to have all the external? I mean, how do you as a parent approach that?
I think two ways. And for me, you know, I was raised without a father. So for me, it was very dysfunctional. And for a long time in my life, I was extremely driven for the wrong reason. I was driven to get a coach to pay attention to me. I was driven to get a coach to say, well done. So when I talk about this need for affirmation, it's not because I want to point at people. I'm talking about myself. I've lived it. I've had more surgeries and rehabs and things, you know, than you want to mention. But I understand that unless I model it, they won't do it. I can tell them. But if they don't see me do what I say I was going to do, if they don't see me really work hard, now they'll go, Dad, we don't want you to work today. And I'll go, girls, I want to be with you, but I have to work. Why? And that's the teaching moment. And then they see me, there he goes, and he works. Or he said he will not work tomorrow, and then don't work. He's a man of his word. There's integrity. He made a commitment. Those are the moments. We think that teaching happens only when we go, oh, now I'm going to teach this, sit down in the classroom. No, it is every single action. And if we need to first, as parents, how ridiculous would it be to tell a son, don't smoke when you're standing with a cigarette in your hand, right? So how ridiculous is it to say, well, I want my child to have drive and aspirations and chase their dreams, and then they look at the parent and the parent's not doing it.
Right.
It will not be in the child. Well, no, they're going to learn it at school or their soccer coach. No, they're not. They're going to look at the parent. Well, they don't like me. They like their coach. They don't need to like you. They learn from you. As functional or dysfunctional as we are as parents, right? And what do we know? I mean, there's no handbook. We're learning. You're a mom. I mean, good night. And no two kids are alike.
Right.
But that's the fun of it, is they've got to see it in us. And the greatest thing you can do now is get back up.
Yes.
Get back up.
Get back up.
Why? I don't want to. Doesn't matter. Get back up. You'll feel it later. You'll thank me later. You'll learn later. You know. And so my mom, when I was 9, I played a lot of chess when I was very young, and I never lost. And I'm not bragging, but it's just I love chess. Never had lost a game at 9 years old. We get in the car one day. She says, "Come, there's a chess tournament." I'm like, "Yes, let's go," because I'm gonna win. I know I'm going to win. We show up, we play. I lose 5 games straight. I don't even make it through the first round, right? But I'm playing against 12-year-olds. She intentionally, my mother, now people go, that's so cruel. Hollywood, no, it's not. That's smart parenting. My mother enrolled me in a tournament for 12-year-olds, knowing I was going to get my butt kicked. I needed to. I needed to lose. It was a horrific experience, but one of the greatest, right? Sometimes we've got to do the things that look painful. And we don't want to harm our children, but this notion of just make them comfortable, where the child sets the rules and the child runs the family, we're going to create a very, very dysfunctional society.
So what about when you look at your children? I mean, my girls are preteen now, and so it's easy for me. And this, and I will say it's kind of funny being second time around parenting, because I have adult children, and I do have a different mindset about a lot of different things now than I did with my first set, but I always wanted to see who they were as individuals, and I always wanted to know what their interleaning, their bent, the way they were designed, the way they were made to be. What do you have to say about parents about that challenge when we're dealing with our children, and with, even if we're mentoring someone?
Yeah, look, it's hard, and I think what you're experiencing, Nelda, and I'm not speaking for you, is there's so much to be said today for time. We absolutely devalue maturity in this country. We think everything should be done by the young people. Everything, the hip, the cool. No way. There's not a single football team that's ever gone to the Super Bowl with a bunch of rookies, right? There's veterans on the team. Absolutely. And the second you look at society and go, we don't need the veterans. We don't need the gray and the wise. We don't need to learn from older people. We don't know here you are, more mature, and you go, I've been through this rodeo before, right? The things that shock me don't shock me anymore. I'm taking it with a grain of salt. I take offense less, and I'm just willing to stare the challenging things in the face and tackle them. And what I say to parents is, for those of you who probably would never get the opportunity that Nelda has to be a second-time parent versus a grandparent, because that's different. You're a parent, right? We get one shot at this, and so every moment counts. And I almost want to encourage people to seek out the challenge. Seek the challenge. Don't avoid the challenge. Seek the challenge. Look at your child and say, what is the difficult thing? What's the elephant in the room? We should do that in our marriages. We should do that with our employees. We should have that kind of level of transparency and saying, we're going to deal with the issues here. We're not going to let issues sit and fester and just think time is going to resolve it, because what's going to happen is teenagers are going to teach your teenagers. Mm-hmm. And now you're inheriting a smorgasbord of other parents teaching and who knows what. And then one day they're 18 and you're complaining, going, how did my child turn out this way? Now, of course, at some point that young person starts making decisions, and we hope and pray that we've poured enough, bent the tree enough, right? But we got to do it while we're young. And I want to encourage parents to do the difficult stuff. The stuff that you go, I don't want to, not today. Yes. Tackle that issue today, right? What I found very successful with this generation, let's say 24 and under, right? Mm-hmm. They won't tell you this. But when you engage them, they actually want real conversation. They actually want deep, challenging conversation, not arguments, but they want to know why. They do. And I think the generation right ahead of them couldn't care less why. Didn't care about why. But we're in a beautiful situation now to turn this country back in the right direction by capitalizing on a younger generation that says, we want to know why. Why are we doing this? I'm hearing people today, for instance, younger people saying, is it smart to just print money? Is it smart to just have a stimulus package and just throw money at a problem? And I go, no, it's not smart. You got to do some of it, but you have to ask why. You have to ask, what will it do 5, 10, 15 years from now, right? You're looking at a generation that's graduating college right now, that over 60, I think the new number is 65% of them will not work the job they studied in college. Because when they made the decision to go to college, they didn't even ask why. Do I even want to be a lawyer? That just seems cool. It's what my dad did, or whatever, right? And now they're sitting with, now what do I do, right?
Right.
And I'm seeing a new culture in high school. So I work with high schoolers too. That's saying, no, slow down. I need to figure this out. I don't want debt. I don't want the burden. I don't want to waste time. That's where we need to be going.
And I think it will, it's amazing the value of looking at an individual, seeing who they are. I will never forget. I will never forget. I found out 4 years after I left high school that my drill team instructor asked my mother what I studied. And Mom said, "Oh, Nelda's a speech pathologist." And she said, "Oh, well, that's interesting. That's not where I saw Nelda." And she said, "Oh, what did you think?" And she said, "I just always thought that Nelda should go into communications."
Wow. Right? No, right? I mean,
why did you never say that to me? Why did you not say, no one even opened that door to me? And here it's kind of full circle now, but it's really interesting to me that someone saw that in me, but didn't mentor me.
Didn't say something.
But however, I absolutely believe that I'm where I'm supposed to be, and I've been where I'm supposed to have been, and that there's been lessons learned and things that I bring to the table. And I'm going to tell you something, I love the age that I am, and I want to impart. I think that is very important that our young adults and our and even our older adults understand the value and the worth of wisdom that is gained through being able to be at a different point in your life and have seen things happen and have gone through those things. It does make you, it does help one look at, let's just say, my two young ones now and say, we're going to be okay. We're going to be okay. You've been through some hard things. You've been through some trauma. But guess what? It's what's going to make you. It really actually is going to be a part of who you are.
I think one of the greatest things that contribution, Nelda, what you're saying, I want to use you as an example. When you start imparting life, it's life. I always tell people say, well, how do I disciple someone that doesn't know God? I always say, just tell them your story. Yeah. Who's going to argue with your story? What has God done for you? You don't need to, So when you start imparting wisdom on a younger generation through this kind of a podcast or a series or a book or a play or a film you're involved with, right? What you're doing really now is you're giving them time back. The most valuable commodity. We need to, as a society, value time better. If someone who is gray and wise walks up to a young gentleman and say, listen, son, I'm not telling you what to do, but I'm going to tell you what happened to me. It took me 7 years to figure out what I'm about to tell you now. That's valuable.
That is very valuable.
That's valuable. Now, go proof and verify, of course, but how much time can we save our younger generation to be more efficient, more effective, right? And yes, the ripple effect is less debt, less bad decisions, probably less divorce, less et cetera, et cetera. But time can be granted to the younger generation by saying, we want to help you walk past the bear traps.
Yes, absolutely.
Right?
Yeah. Jaco, thank you so much. I could talk to you forever. I just really appreciate your time today. I hope that we'll have future times to talk again. And so I just want to say, if you're listening to us, always reach down there and subscribe, right? That's how we like to say that each time with our podcast, right, Jaco? So tell us real quickly, though, we have many, many other people who will be coming on, but I want to ask you where we can find you.
Thank you, Nelda. Thank you for this podcast, this show. And yes, subscribe. This woman's heart is golden. I can't wait to see who's coming on here. I love the way you think. Thank you for what you're doing for those girls, Nelda.
Yeah.
Maybe not today, The day will come when they'll go, Mom, thank you. Thank you. Okay. They may not realize now, but I'm telling you, from me to you, you are Captain Marvel. Okay. You're modeling it. You're modeling it. I promise. And so to find me on Twitter, it's at Booyens Jaco, Instagram, jaco.booyens, or our website, jacoboyensministries.org. ShareTogetherNow.org is our nonprofit. We're just thankful. Support what we do. We want to support you, Nelda. God bless you. Thank you for this time. Thank you for even letting me be on here.
Oh, yes, absolutely. So we'll see you again. All right. Thank you so much, Jaco.
Thank you so much.
Bye.